At first, I thought I misheard him. Maybe the noise of the dinner table had masked his words. Maybe the clink of cutlery and shallow laughter had distorted his tone. But no, he meant it. He said it loud enough for everyone to hear. So, my father asked, wiping his mouth with the linen napkin he always insisted on folding just right, did the money help? He said it with a crooked smile, not cruel, not kind, just detached, almost amused, like I was a side character in his life he'd almost forgotten to ask about. The table went quiet, except for the soft scraping of my fork. I didn't answer right away. I looked around. My brother, his gaze locked onto his steak. My sister-in-law, twisting her wine glass, avoiding eye contact. And then I looked at Mom. Her face was still, composed. But her eyes were loud. Too loud. They carried something she couldn't say. And that's when I asked, what money? Her fork froze mid-air. My father's smile cracked just for a second. You see, this wasn't an ordinary family dinner. This was the kind where memories are edited, and guilt is passed around more delicately than the dessert tray. Where silence is tradition, and where every question is a trap, every answer a performance. Welcome to Family Revenge Files. If you've ever sat at a table where truth had no seat, where your presence was acknowledged but your pain ignored, then this story is yours too. Subscribe now, not just for stories of quiet retaliation, but for reminders that dignity doesn't beg to be noticed. It arrives uninvited. And tell me, have you ever had someone ask you a question, not to understand you, but to control the narrative about you? What did you say? What did you wish you had said? Leave your answer in the comments, or just drop a chair if you've ever been given the wrong seat in your own life story. Because in this one, that question, did the money help, was not just about money, it was about memory, about debt, about silence wrapped in politeness, and about the kind of betrayal that doesn't arrive with screaming, but with small talk. That's when I knew something had been hidden from me. Something deep, and as I stared into my mother's eyes, I realized this wasn't going to be dinner. This was going to be excavation. And someone, by the end of the night, was going to regret ever setting the table. My mother didn't answer me, not with words. She looked down at her plate as if suddenly fascinated by the edge of her mashed potatoes. My father cleared his throat. You know, he said, waving his fork as if that would explain it, the money. The check. The support we gave when you moved out, he said. Support, like it was a gift, like it was something noble, like it didn't come with strings or silence or shame. I didn't move. I never got a check. A flicker passed through my mom's face. It was quick, like a shutter closing, but I saw it. My brother shifted in his seat, clearly wishing he could disappear into the gravy boat. No one spoke, the kind of silence that doesn't settle, it crawls. That's strange, my dad said, but he didn't sound surprised. We definitely sent it. Right, honey? He turned to my mom. She smiled the way people smile in hostage videos. Yes. I thought we did. But her voice wasn't there. It was hollow, like someone had stolen her script and replaced it with static. Let me ask you, have you ever seen a secret about to break? Not in words, but in the space between them. That thin air where eye contact becomes a weapon. Comment below if you've ever felt the lie before you heard it. That's what this was. I pushed my plate away, appetite gone. What account did it come from? I asked. My father hesitated. Just long enough. From the family account, he said. The joint one. We handled it together. I turned to my mother. Did you? She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally, looked me in the eye. No, she said, barely a whisper. I didn't know he sent anything. And there it was. The fracture. Suddenly it wasn't about the money. It was about who they became when I left. It was about how they talked about me when I wasn't there. About how they wrote me out of their narrative with a single forged gesture of generosity. I stood up, not angrily, just done. So you sent a check to feel better about how you treated me, I said to my dad, and told everyone I'd taken your help. He didn't deny it. And that silence was everything. Let me ask you again, if you found out your own parents invented a story about helping you, just to maintain control, would you confront them, or walk away forever? A. Confront them and demand truth. B. Walk away with your peace intact. Drop your choice in the comments. No judgment, Just truth? Because the rest of that dinner, it wasn't about food anymore. It was about reckoning. The strange thing is, I didn't leave home because of one fight. Or one insult. Or even one moment. I left because of 1,000 quiet things. 1,000 closed doors. 1,000, we'll talk about this later, that never came. People think you leave because of a shout, but sometimes silence is louder. When I packed my things 5 years ago, no one stopped me. My mother folded a shirt and said, "Make sure you eat enough." My father told me to keep receipts, that was it. No hugs, no breakdowns, no tears, just polite release, like a tenant ending a lease. And now, years later, I learned they wrote themselves into my exit. Made it sound like they gave me something. Covered my independence with the illusion of support. Claimed they helped me get started. That lie, it wasn't about money. It was about erasing the story I actually lived. You ever realize your family has been narrating your life differently? Telling others a version that makes them look better, kinder, more present than they ever were. That was this moment. My mind flashed back to my first apartment. Cracked paint. A mattress on the floor. I worked 2 jobs, waitressing and remote admin support, while trying to launch my design firm. Every dinner I skipped, every bill I paid late, every time I cried into a pillow no one knew I had, I survived that alone. Alone. Not with their money. Not with their support. And now here they were, rewriting my hunger into a favor they never gave. It's strange, isn't it? How the people who abandon you are often the ones who tell the story like they saved you. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had to listen to someone describe your pain in a way that made them look noble? If yes, comment. I remember. If no, hold space for those of us who do. I looked at my mother again. This time not in anger, but in curiosity. You didn't know he sent anything? She shook her head. He told me you refused it. That hit harder than I expected. Because it meant he not only lied about sending the money, he lied about me. He told her I rejected their support. He painted me as proud, ungrateful, distant. He told that story enough times that she believed it. That everyone did. That I started to believe it. And that's the most dangerous kind of betrayal, isn't it? Not when they hurt you once, but when they keep retelling your life until you start to question your own memory. So I asked myself, standing there, between the roast and the wine and the dim yellow light of a family dinner table, how much of my story do I actually own? And how much of it have I let them control, just by staying silent? And if I don't speak now, if I don't take it back, will they keep narrating my life forever? Let me put it to you like this. If your silence gave others power over your story, would you finally break it? Yes or no? Comment your answer. Someone else out there needs the courage too. I didn't plan to say anything more. I really didn't. But silence, once broken, doesn't go back together neatly. It unravels, it spills. And sometimes, it shatters everything you've carefully left untouched. I turned to my father, calmly. Why did you tell Mom I refused your help? He blinked. Not with confusion, with calculation. That's when I realized. He wasn't caught off guard. He was weighing how much truth he was willing to lose tonight. I didn't say that exactly, he began. I said you were independent. That you didn't want us involved. I smiled. Not because it was funny, but because it was so on brand, always reframing, always shifting blame into flattery, turning neglect into praise. You told her I rejected the money, that I was cold, that I walked away, he shrugged. You did walk away? Because you never opened the door, I said. You don't get to narrate my leaving as some kind of rejection when all you gave me were goodbyes. The table was silent again. But this time, the silence didn't belong to them. It belonged to me. It was mine. I earned it. And then I asked the question I had never dared to ask. What was so hard about loving me without conditions? No one breathed. My brother looked like he wanted to melt into his plate. My mom was holding her breath. My father's lips parted, but no words came. I leaned in slightly. You see, I've spent years thinking I was the problem, that I expected too much, that maybe I was ungrateful. But now I see, what you couldn't stand wasn't my distance, it was my refusal to stay small. And then, calmly, like I was asking him to pass the salt, I said, you didn't send the money to help me. You told people you had, so you could take credit without giving support. His jaw tightened. That's manipulation, I added. And it's over. Let me ask you this, listener. If someone in your life rewrote your past just to protect their ego, would you confront them? Or would you let them keep narrating your story? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Someone reading might need your courage. Back at the table, my father finally spoke. I did what I thought was best. I nodded slowly. For you, not for me. And that was the final truth. Because the lie wasn't just in the money. The lie was in pretending they ever saw me. Truly, without needing to shape me into something they could explain to others. And now, the explaining was done. I stood up slowly. There was no dramatic scraping of the chair, no shouting, no tears, just movement. Deliberate. Controlled. Like a woman who had been walking on eggshells for years and finally decided to crush them under her heel. My father didn't stop me. My mother didn't speak. And that was the most telling part of it all. How quickly they let me go. Again. Because for people like them, it was never really about connection. It was about comfort. And when your truth makes them uncomfortable, they'll always choose the version of you that stays quiet. But I wasn't quiet anymore. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't owe them that. As I reached the hallway, I paused. One last look at the photos on the wall, my face missing from so many of them. Erased not out of cruelty, but out of inconvenience. That's what I had been all these years. Inconvenient. Too ambitious, too sensitive, too independent. Too loud in the ways they wanted silence, too quiet in the ways they wanted performance. But now I was something else entirely. I was sovereign. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the folded check I found in my mother's desk drawer weeks ago. The one she never mailed, the one he pretended had been sent. I walked back to the dining room. Not to speak, just to act. I placed the check on my father's empty bread plate. He looked at it, said nothing. But this time I didn't need his words. He knew. They all knew. And I was finally free of the question, what money? Let me ask you something before we end this story. Have you ever walked away? Not because you were weak, but because you were finally strong enough to stop begging for love that comes with footnotes. If you have, comment, I chose myself. And if you haven't yet, maybe this is your sign. Because the loudest revenge is walking away from the script they wrote for you and writing your own, with peace as the punctuation. Sometimes the hardest part of healing is realizing that the apology you deserve will never come. That the people who hurt you will sleep peacefully while you stay up wondering if maybe, just maybe, you imagined the whole thing. But you didn't. You saw what you saw. You felt what you felt. And you survived what they pretended never happened. You grew in silence. You thrived without their applause. You built something out of scraps they tossed aside. And now, they're uncomfortable with the noise your success makes. That's not your problem. Let them be uncomfortable. Because every time they told your story wrong, they pushed you closer to the truth. And that truth, it belongs to you now. You don't need a check to prove your worth. You don't need their version of the past to validate your pain. You don't need to sit at a table where your name is used more than your voice. You have your own table now, and maybe it's smaller, maybe it's quieter. But every seat was earned. And every person there sees you, not the version they wish you were. So here's what I'll leave you with. If you've ever been written out of your own story, write yourself back in. And this time, don't ask for permission. Comment below, have you ever reclaimed your voice after years of being silenced? If yes, tell us how. You never know who needs your words right now. And if not yet, maybe today is your beginning. Choose your voice. Choose your peace. Choose your version of the story. If stories like this one resonate with you, stories about quiet courage, personal reclamation, and the soft power of standing tall, then this is your space. Subscribe to Family Revenge Files. Turn on notifications. Because every day will bring you stories that remind you you are not alone, and you are not invisible, and maybe just maybe your story is next.